Okay, good evening, everyone. If you're on your way or if you have joined us for this evening's Spiritual Mind Healing Service, my name is Carol Campbell, and I am a practitioner with the Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living. Please join me in an opening affirmative prayer. We take a deep breath in. And as we breathe in and we hold that breath, we recognize that this is God breathing us. We release that breath and release everything that has gone with the day. Now is the time for us to be here and present. We take another deep breath in and we hold it and allow it to circulate throughout our body temple. We release it, knowing that we are releasing God into the atmosphere. And releasing God means that we release love and joy, peace and light into the atmosphere that surrounds every activity this evening. We take one last deep breath in and recognize that we are allowing this powerful presence, which we call God, to be present and powerful in this conversation this evening. We know that right where we are, everything that needs to be known is revealed in right and perfect ways. No mistakes are possible because God is all there is and God is always good. This is the truth that guides us on our path. This is the truth that inspires our thoughts and actions. This is the truth that comes from us as words that touch, to heal, to bless. So I'm giving thanks for this evening's Spiritual Mind Healing Service. And I now allow that powerful presence, which we call God, to take over the proceedings this evening. And I let it be so now. And so it is. We can go into a few moments of a short meditation just to center ourselves before we open the discussion. So again, be present to the quietness, the silence within. This silence is always present, regardless of what is happening on the outside. We recognize now that silence is not necessarily the absence of noise. It is that quiet place which we find within our own souls. We go there now to rest from the day's activities, and to prepare ourselves for this evening's conversation, knowing that we are in a safe space. We are loved, we are honored, we are glorified. As we revel in this quietness, we now bring our awareness back to the space where we are, the chair that we're sitting on, And we open our eyes now to be present. And so it is. Let's just breathe in for a moment. And welcome everyone who has joined us since we started. Thank you for being here. You are an important part of this conversation this evening.
Thank you, Carol. Good evening, everyone. It is our pleasure to share the, I almost said platform, to share the healing service experience this evening, Carol and myself. And our topic this evening is an inconvenient truth. You know, all month we've been exploring the topic on status quo. And it has invited us to look at how do we break the box of the status quo? And, you know, what triggered this topic was hearing the news on Friday that my oldest living relative, my aunt Winnie, she was Winnie to Carol, she passed. She passed on Thursday, a day after her 103rd birthday. Now, the passing was bittersweet because, of course, her care, my nieces, my older sisters, 2 daughters were taking care of her. And it was extremely challenging. And she, of course, was, I mean, you know, it must be really difficult when you are in a body that doesn't work, but your mind is sharp. And so, of course, there was nothing that they ever did that she expressed appreciation about. So she's what one could describe as miserable. But Aunt Winnie was Aunt Winnie, and we all loved her. And it made me flash back to when I was a child, growing up with and having her visit or me going to visit her. And Winnie was somebody that we knew as what we call stoosh. Very proper, very prim, very proper. And she came from an era where there was a kind of a highbrow status, or a status coming with being what we call highbrow. That certain things were not good enough for certain people, or certain people weren't good enough for us. And so there are certain prejudices that I grew into. And prejudices around color of people's skin, who is your family, where you come from. I grew up with things like having seeing my mother put cutlery and glassware under the sink. And that is for the persons who work with us. So having come up in that era, and certainly Aunt Winnie passing made me reflect a lot on the learnings from childhood and recognizing how much of those I have broken, how much my own values have shifted, and how I don't have some of those behaviors in my life at all. And it got me thinking about this thing of the status quo. And it got me thinking about truth. Because there are certain things that many of us grew up with, certain ideas, certain values, certain ways of being. Many of us went to other churches, and we come into the Temple of Light, and we hear a lot of these statements. God is all there is. First of all, we took God out of the sky. That was a big thing for me. God is not really a white man with a beard living up in the sky. So that was what's that, Carol?
With a big black keeping tabs.
With our names in it. So I broke that paradigm to understand and accept that that God is expressing in Ansarand as me, as you, as each and every one. That was one. The second thing, one of the second things I learned is that we are one with God. So if you see me, you see God. If you see Carol, you see God. If you see Yvonne, you see God, and so on. Each one of us is God expressing. Another thing that I learned is that God's abundance is infinite and I can have it. You know, I can have it. So why am I broke? You know, so that truth didn't sort of fit with what I knew about lack at the time, you know. And so there are a couple of other things that that came up for me. So one of the things I want to ask you, and I hope that you all have pen and paper this evening because we're going to be writing and we're going to be talking. What are some of the things that you learned? Just write quickly in the chat. What are a couple of the things that you learned? Some of the new truths that came into your life as you came into this teaching and spent time going to classes and so on. What are some of the teachings, you know, that you learned here at the Temple of Lights? Let's write quickly in the chat.
Well, I think for me, one of the things, a very clear teaching for me that took a while to settle in because of the background that I was coming from as well, is that sense of being worthy. Yes, you know, God is infinite, the universe is infinite. And so what? You know, unless I am experiencing and expressing that infinitude, it has no connection to me. And so that was a big learning for me. I'm still learning it. You know, I didn't get to this this age. I sometimes think, you know, how did I get to this age? When did I get to this? Yeah, I didn't get to this stage knowing what I know now. And so I had to work my way through all the inconsistencies, all the inconveniences that I grew up with. And much like you, you know, our parents are of a particular era where that was the way that they thought, because that's what they were taught. So we had the privilege of being taught something else, and we chose to accept the new teaching, the new idea. You know, as I said, people come to this teaching either through desperation or inspiration. Well, I know I definitely came through desperation, but it was not, I did not accept it right? I didn't accept it readily because it was so foreign. It was very foreign. And it was inconvenient, really, because it meant I had to change the way I thought about a lot of things. The way I thought about myself, the way I thought about my family values. It was very inconvenient. And so I had to really dig down deep and find a way to navigate that inconvenience that would make me still have a connection. It's not about isolating those who do not believe the way that you do. It's about embracing everyone.
The difference.
Inconvenient, no. Respect the differences and honor each person's right to have their own opinion.
If I look at the chat, we have a couple of comments. Yvonne says, God is present in my life. Yes, God is present in my life. And you know, as one of the truths that we are told, that God is present. We hear about God being equally evenly present. Jennifer says, I'm a creator of my own experiences. Now, that was a truth that was extremely inconvenient when I saw up close and personal that it's another person doing something to me. How could I believe that I'm the creator of my own experience? I didn't create that.
Exactly. You know, and
I
as
take
a
that
matter of fact,
person they did. Mhm.
yeah, you know, when I first came to the teaching, you know, to hear that I was responsible for what happened to in my life, and I literally threw the Science of Mind book across the room because I said, you know,
Eh,
what do you mean I'm responsible for this? You think I like this? You think I wanted this? You
Yes,
know? Um,
yes.
so it, and thank goodness I had she wasn't even a teacher. She was just a friend who saw a need and decided to shepherd me. Thank goodness for her, you
Yes,
know.
yes. But Van says evil is not a reality and there is no devil. Well, if there's no devil, then who do I blame for all of my woes and problems? That was one of it, it was an inconvenient truth because I first at the beginning I didn't want to take responsibility for my life choices at all. There had to be something out there doing something to me. You know, thank you for that.
Exactly.
Oh, and in fact, I am responsible for my choices, as Vance reiterates. Steve says, this is from Arlene. You know, growing up with this notion of a punishing God, fire and let's see,
Brimstone.
and brimstone.
Brimstone.
Yes, it's a hard, big. What Reverend John would say, a hard frog, a big frog to swallow. Yes, we are responsible indeed. You know, so I know that truth has always been present in my life, at least certainly over the last 40 odd years. But it hasn't been always convenient to follow the teachings of truth, particularly when life is occurring the way that it occurs. And many of you can probably relate to that and the challenges that they bring. So let me just come back to some questions here. Why do you think, let me ask you, and any of you can either open your mic and share or just write it in the chat. Why do you think that spiritual truth can be so challenging or inconvenient for us to accept? Why is truth so challenging or inconvenient, especially spiritual truth, for us to accept?
I don't know that I would make a distinction between truth and spiritual truth. And for me, that was one of the biggest lessons. The logic of the law and how it worked, the logic of divine law and how it worked, was a great revelation for me. Same kind of upbringing like most of our generation, not Catholic Church, but Anglican Church, etc., fire, brimstone, God in the sky, etc. But it was something that I always resisted. And so now coming to this, teaching the Science of Mind, I said, this makes sense. But then the biggest thing for me was responsibility. That was the biggest thing for me.
And that is why that is why it is so that is why it is an inconvenient truth, because it is so much easier. I mean, the traditional teaching of Orthodox churches, you know, is come lay your burden down and somebody else will take care of it. There's no sense of you have a responsibility in, first of all, what happens to you and how you deal with what happens to you. You know, so that is a difficult attitude to have to accept.
Mhm.
It's much easier to say, here, you do it, you fix it.
Yeah, that's why the idea of the savior,
Mm.
Yeah.
we grew up to know that, there's a savior and he will wash away all your sins,
Mhm.
absolve you of any sense of responsibility for the choices that I would have made, but we don't have that. We have this, I choose. I have to deal with the consequences. And so take it a step further, having chosen and have some, consequence A, I can choose again and have a better experience coming out of that. Um,
Sandy, it's Arlene.
yes, Arlene, hi.
I believe what I think sometimes the hesitation is because when we're growing up, we're told that adults and our parents are always right. So if for years you're following what they say is right, and then you hear something else, just like in some of the other practices, you hear another thing, or you see certain ministers acting a certain way, then it becomes confusing, like what is the truth? So I think that's why a lot of hesitation until like you start really dealing with the science of mind and you realize, like Steve said, this make more sense. So
Mhm. Yeah, what would help? Hold on, let me just go to the chat here again. Oh, Yvonne said embody divine order.
Mhm.
I'd love to know what you mean by that, Yvonne, and we can talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, to reach the realization that no matter the circumstances and the surroundings and everything is in divine order.
Mhm.
I don't know if that clarified a little bit more.
Yes, of course. So there's no inconvenience when it comes to you, as far as you're concerned.
No, well, an inconvenience, once you know what you know, there is no inconvenience to be
Absolutely.
experienced. It's when you're not sure, it's when there's the doubt and the confusion that
Yeah.
you have inconsistencies and inconveniences.
Yeah.
Yes, got that.
I'm not sure if I agree with you 100%, Carol. All right, so
Okay.
I know that all that I require is provided,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That all that the Father has is mine, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when I look in the bank book, it don't look that way. And I know it, but I'm not seeing it in the bank book. So it kind of become a bit inconvenient at that time.
So Vance, hold on a second. I need to get that clear. So is it that not having the money in the bank book is inconvenient, or the idea of abundant prosperity is that which is not convenient when you look at compare it to what's in your bank book or not?
Yeah. All right. So that then it kind of come back to responsibility again, because I know that what is required is provided. So really it is up to me, right? And it's up to me why it's not showing.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way it's inconvenient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, of course, not having any money in the bank account is inconvenient at a level at which we operate. But like you said earlier before we started to talk, we're not speaking about facts. We're speaking about the absolute truth. And that absolute truth says that even if your bank account is empty, it doesn't mean that there is nothing. You still have, and you still have the potential to have what it is that you need, because we're talking about the big T truth.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Not that it's easy. You can't ignore the inconvenience of the empty bank account. but it's what do I do with it?
Okay. Dawn says, my difficulty was learning to let go and let God. Wasn't easy, but I think I'm about there. Keep reminding myself. Yeah, so you see, what I'm getting from that too is that it's so important to keep at this, because maybe the default, the old paradigms, the old values that many of us grew up with, they're embedded deep, deep, deeply into our psyche. And you know, when life occurs, when there is a diagnosis or a financial challenge or some other issue, it's so easy to go back to the default, right? And you know, and truth might become an inconvenient practice, because it is. I've heard some people say that it is so vague. It's not. If I come to you, Carol, and say, lend me $10,000, you can go into your purse and give me the $10,000 or not. But then but you are I can see you. I can experience you. I can't see and experience God as my infinite giver. And so to be able to just, as I've heard someone say, just let go. Just let go and let God surrender to that invisible, omnipotent, omniscient presence that forever says yes.
I remember years ago, I was at a retreat. Well, it was a silent retreat put on by the Franciscan monks. And there was it was about a 10-year-old boy. He was there with his parents, and in one of the discussions, they were talking about God, what God is. And it was very esoteric. And he said, I want my God with skin on him. He said, that way. I can't see him and I can't touch him, And that's exactly what you were just talking about just now. It's hard to relate to a concept. When you speak about, we have so far been making God in our own image, because we are told we were created in the image and likeness. Therefore, God must look like us, right? But that when we say created in the image and likeness, it's not that God must look like us. It's that we must embody the qualities that God represents, which are non-physical qualities.
It was very interesting. A few months ago, I had a health challenge, and I was at Medical Associates waiting to be seen. Of course, while the whole thing was going on, I was thinking, oh boy, is this it? Am I going to go this way? Whoa, what happened? What I've been taking care of myself. My mind was full of thoughts regarding my health, all of that. I wasn't thinking about God very much at all. I found it very hard to think about God. But while I'm sitting there waiting, the doors swing open and a stretcher comes in. And on the stretcher is another member of our temple community. And I immediately go into prayer and start to talk about divine order for this person. And so, maybe the next question is, why is truth convenient for us to pray and affirm for others, but it's not seeming as easy to do it for ourselves?
Very good statement, Sandy. Very, very good statement. I find it easier sometimes to do that than for myself.
And so what makes that so?
I don't know. I just turned to somebody that time, because since the old pattern of you might broken your bank account, look, turn in and something. And it's a dual thing, because saying it and not feel it and not convinced about it is just like showing wine into something. So when you reach that stage, me personally, I just ask somebody now to do it for me.
Understood. I heard Steve's voice. Thanks for that, Yvonne. Steve?
That is essentially it. What Ivan just said. That is where community comes. You know, that common unity. COME-UNITY. You know,
Yeah.
we know this truth. We know that everything and everyone is that living spirit made manifest. And in our moment of weakness, you know, sitting in the hospital, Lord have mercy, is this it now, etc., etc. In walks someone, or in wheels someone, who one reminds us of that and reminds us of our responsibility in that community. So now we do that for that person. And in the midst of doing that, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that somewhere along the line, a little aha, go on. So then, Mrs., why you not do this for yourself too? You know, or why don't you call Reverend Ann or Vance or Carol, you know, and make them do this thing for you as well, you know? You know, I think one of the things that we miss, certainly a lot of us, quote unquote, Christians, is that Yeshua never sent his disciples out alone. They always went in twos and threes. You know, we talk about prayer partners, etc., etc. Isn't it the same thing? I don't know.
I think it's the same thing. I was thinking, Steve, I tell you, you and I, it's the same thing. As you were talking, I was thinking of the disciples.
You know, so we're going to go into prayer in a little bit, but one of the things I would like to ask of this group is, listen, well, let me speak for myself. As my life evolves, as I'm getting older, and I've already articulated that I'm making the rest of my life the best of my life. And so, you know, I'm peeling off the layers of these inconvenient thinkings to really, really narrow the gap between what I know intellectually and how I live from that knowing. Right? So that truth is not an inconvenience at all. It is my default now. It's the go-to. And so, yes, the human side of me might kick in sometimes, but I'm so aware of it. And so my challenge to each of you is, what am I, and I want you to use it, you know, ask a question about yourself. What am I going to do differently? Who am I going to be being such that I embody truth, I live truth, I express from the highest intelligence at the core, at the center of my being, in every cell, in every fiber. And I act and respond to my world from that space. You know, what do we do? How do we make that happen? How do we support each other to make that happen? Comments?
By being a part of this community, just as you're doing here this evening. And this approach, I believe, is so important, right? Reverend Michelle alluded to it, and we say it, you know, we remind ourselves every Thursday, amidst all the quarreling and fighting and looking at the textbook and everything, we are here for each other. What happens here, stay here. And we're not afraid to ask for prayer and things. We have to allow ourselves to be that, like the person on the stretcher, but also allow ourselves to accept that when it is our time of weakness. I think we have an obligation, knowing what we know about how the law works, to make sure that someone walks into the temple and feels that welcome, that embrace, you know.
Yeah.
And I think too, in addition to that, Steve, is to allow ourselves to be on the receiving end. You know, it's easier to give than to receive. Why? Why should that be? Except that maybe we don't think we deserve to get. So it's much easier, practitioneritis will kick in. And I am a practitioner. So as a practitioner, I am to help you. I am to help others. But yet have to get to that point of no return before you pick up the phone and call another practitioner and say, hey,
Definitely, definitely.
We have an obligation to let everyone know that we are available, and persons in this group know because I have called them before, So that prosperity affirmation that we've been using these past few weeks, that I deserve section, is a good reminder. But it also, we could encapsulate all those I deserve statements into say, this is my birthright, and when I'm not feeling it, I better call Sandy or call Reverend Anna or call Jennifer, call someone else to help me through this moment. We have to be willing to do that, I think.
yes.
Yep.
And not wait until your back is against the wall.
Oh, that is, yeah. The story of the two people talking, and there's a crisis and a challenge, and one person said, "Well, boy, I'm have to go pray now," and the next person said, "Lord, this is what it come to." Wow. So let me look. I think we can start to now look at what put your prayer requests in the chat. Let me just, I'm looking for somebody. Yeah, put your prayer requests in the chat, and we will pray for you. Carol, you and I can take turns, right?
Yeah. I was just thinking that.
Okay.
Can you just pray for the family down in
Cherry Tree Lane, or
yes, please. Just whatever you think the prayer should be.
yes.
Peace and love and whatever, everything.
Yes, indeed. Okay. So any requests in YouTube? Unless you can
Not seeing any yet. As an adjunct to Yvonne's request, we have to find a space, I think, maybe in a different treatment for the perpetrators of these acts who seem to believe that there is some kind of power, there's something to be gained, in behaving in this way. So for myself, maybe it is the temple that taught me this a lot of times. When we get into that mode of, remembering the family, I believe we should also say to that part of us that is those perpetrators, time to let this go now.
Got you.
Yeah.
I got you, Steve. And you see, we tend to ostracize and blame and criticize, but they are victims too of whatever is going on in their lives.
Like I always say, there's only one of us here. So they are as much a part of us as anybody else.
Okay, got you. Wholeness for Anne, Reverend Anne.
And health for Marjorie. And what did Dawn say?
Peace for the Cherry Tree Lane. Okay. Right action for Dawn. So we do Cherry Tree Lane, so we do peace for that and for Jamaica.
There's one for Pauline R. Prosperity.
Mhm.
Pauline R. So we have.
We have
so-
two for health, for Carol Watson and for Marjorie. Reverend, and the treatment for wholeness is one for health or wholeness otherwise?
Wholeness mean mind, body, and everywhere. Yes. Same health.
Mhm.
Treatment for Marjorie's family, especially for Anne and her brother, please. They need it.
I made a note of that already.
Okay, I don't see anything else. Treatment for love for Dawn as well. Okay. Okay, so we want to start with, let's do an affirmative prayer of peace for the community of Cherry Tree Lane, for our entire country. Let us just know together that there is one presence, one power, that infinite one that we know as God, that one which expresses as all of life, as all of humanity. That one I'm knowing created each one of us out of itself. And it declared each of us good and very good. And so it is in this knowing that the goodness of God, the love of God, the allness of God expresses in and through and as every one of us, in and through and as every community across this country, specifically the community of Cherry Tree Lane in Clarendon, that I speak my word now for peace. And I declare that these words are that which now surrounds this community as they navigate the experience they had 2 days ago. The experience of losing loved ones, the way that they left this life. And so I'm knowing that at the center of this apparent experience of pain, of loss, of tragedy, I know that the presence of God expresses strongly, powerfully, potently. And it reaches out to embrace everyone who has been touched by this experience. And even those who were not there, but who are commiserating with the members of that community. I know that this peace is that now which stills every troubled heart, which provides whatever is needed for the ease, for the comfort of the members of this community. The sense of peace is that which embraces even those who are described as perpetrators. And I'm knowing that whatever needs to happen that allows this situation to be resolved in a peaceful and loving way is now occurring. And so I declare and know that the presence of peace, of harmony, of love, of good is now unfolding in the midst of the Cherry Tree Lane community. And it's spreading and expanding out to touch every part of the parish of Clarendon, to move through and surround the entire island, and to dissipate and express right around the globe. Because God's peace knows no boundary, and it does its healing work wherever it finds itself. And indeed, it is expressing perfectly and powerfully right here, right now. And we know this as the truth. And so in this knowing, I release my word and just accept that it is accomplished, perfectly powerful, and absolutely, as the universe says yes to the presence of peace. I truly give thanks now that all this is so, and so it is.
And so it is. And in this continued consciousness, I speak my word for wholeness of mind, body, and spirit, health. This health, this wholeness is God fully expressed. And this expression finds its perfect vehicle, its perfect outcome through Carol Watson, through Marjorie Paris, and through her family. And for anyone else who is tuned into the idea of health and wholeness, I know right here and right now that God being fully present and fully active now activates every cell, every tissue, every function, every issue in every physical being that is desirous of it.
And so I'm knowing that the health of the infinite is now expressing as each and every one of these beautiful souls, of Marjorie, of Carol, of Anne, of Dawn. I'm knowing for everyone who is open and receptive to these words, that the presence of perfect health is expressing as clarity of thinking, as sizzling energy and perfect health, as absolute order in their affairs. I'm knowing that the presence of health, the presence of life, the presence of God is that which is doing its perfect work right here, right now. And so for Marjorie and her family, I know that this is the truth about them. For Carol Watson, for Anne, and for everyone else who is open and receptive to these words of health and wholeness. And so in this consciousness, and with a deep sense of gratitude, I release these words, knowing that the presence of health is expressing in right and perfect ways as I have spoken it. I truly give thanks that this is so, and so it is. We lost Carol, offline that is. Okay, so let's do now an affirmative prayer of right action for Dawn. Oh, we truly are grateful for the joy, for the beauty, for the knowing that God is all that there is, the divine presence and power of perfect right action, that which knits this universe together, that which expresses in every aspect of our lives as order. And so in this moment, I speak my word for Dawn as she navigates the sale of her home. And knowing that every aspect of that experience is unfolding perfectly, powerfully, and in right order. I know that the sale agreement, or the experience of the purchaser, the experience of Dawn as seller, the experience of everyone involved in this transaction is now unfolding easily, effortlessly, and perfectly. So I declare the awesome experience that is now Dawn's as she just embraces God's work, God's energy flowing through this transaction now. There's no doubt as to its perfect unfoldment. And so I just declare and know that indeed it is coming to the fullest and the best fruition possible. And so knowing that this is the truth, I release these words with a sense of joyful anticipation of their completion, of their fullest demonstration and manifestation. I truly give thanks now that all this is so, and so it joyfully is. And I'm just opening my eyes to see Reverend Raymond. Big you up. You've been on my mind and in my heart. Going to give you a shout out. You'll hear from me soon. Oh, we're so grateful to have you as part of our Jamaica fan club. We're part of your fan club too. All right, so now we're going to embrace prosperity for Pauline. And for anyone else here, just tune in your consciousness to these words of prosperity. We acknowledge God as our source. We know that God is our supply, and that supply is infinite. And we declare now and know that this source is that which provides for us every good thing. And we tune in now to that presence of God's fullest expression unfolding in our lives, in our affairs. We're grateful for this presence. We recognize and know that it is the source of all our good. And so we declare now that every aspect of our financial affairs is in perfect order. We open our consciousness to receive the inflow of money substance from known and unknown channels. We open ourselves to divine givingness. So we give freely, easily, and effortlessly, knowing that it's all God and it's all good. There's no sense of lack or limitation when we affirm and know our source. And so we embrace the good that is ours, that flows to us, through us, from the wellspring of God's infinite givingness. And we know that we are deserving, every part of us, fully deserving of the good that God gives to us, through us. And so we are grateful. And in the spirit of gratitude, I release my word, knowing that for Dawn, for Pauline, and for every one of us who is open and receptive to these words, that the flow of abundance and prosperity is ours now, as the Lord acts upon these words and says, yes, prosperity and abundance as our divine right experience now. I give thanks that all this is so now, and so it is.
And so it is.
And I think the last request, Carol, you're back?
Yes, I don't know what happened. I opened my eyes and it told me that I was no longer there.
Okay, so I'm going to throw love to you, my darling.
Okay. I sneezed and it disappeared.
And I say, bless you, and you're back.
Okay, please join me in an affirmative prayer of love. How sweet it is, this love that encompasses everything that surrounds us with good feelings, that infills us with that appreciation for who we are, for what we are, and for everything in our life experience. This love is that pure, unadulterated healing energy that finds its way into every heart, into every consciousness, into every experience. And it will do so at our bidding. So we open ourselves now, we open our minds, we open our hearts, and we open ourselves, our very souls, to be the receptacle and the vehicle for the dissemination of this love. And I know for Dawn, who particularly expressed a request for a treatment of love, that this love is who Dawn is. This love is how Dawn is. And this love is healing. This love provides everything for Dawn to feel appreciated, for Dawn to feel embraced, to feel comforted, to feel alive. And for everyone who is tuned into the idea of love, I recognize and know without a shadow of a doubt that love now finds its perfect expression. Love now finds the perfect avenue through which to express. And in expressing this love, it flows out from each one of us. It flows out from Dawn, reaching beyond the confines of her limited thinking about anybody's limited thinking. There is no boundary to love because God is love, and God is this boundless energy that can touch every heart, that can heal every experience, that can bring into alignment everything that seems out of whack. So I'm giving thanks. I'm giving thanks for this love that embraces, this love that guides and guards, this love that fills us up to overflowing with that good feelings, that we know that we are loved, that we came from love, and we are here to give love, to express love. We open ourselves now to receive it and to be a channel for it to flow. And in this essence of goodness, I release these words with absolute gratitude for the love that is. And I let it be so now. And so it is.
So it is. There's one more request that I'm seeing at the penultimate moment. I think we've done right action already. So Yvonne, we know for you, right order, right divine, right action and divine order. Let me just do a quick treatment because we have to wrap up. Oh, so we just now know that there is just one presence and power that we must God, and that presence is now expressing perfectly as Yvonne. And that presence now is that perfect divine order, or right order as she declares it, expressing in every aspect of her life, in her affairs, in her finances, in her health, in her relationships. God is at the center, God is at the circumference, and all is well. And so in this knowing that every facet of her life is knitted together in perfect order, with all the resources she needs, all that is required for the perfect unfoldment of every aspect of her life, provided easily, effortlessly, and joyfully. And so knowing this, I release these words to that law that brings it into being for Yvonne now. I rejoice, and with gratitude, I let this be so. So it is. Okay. Wow, very, very quickly. Let me share screen. And I thought this was going to be quick, Carol. Oh my word. Okay. All right, just to quickly just remind you that on Friday we will have the send-off for one of our members, Dr. Thelma Nelson, many of us know her as Tina, at St. Peter and Paul Church on Friday at 10, that's the 16th of August. Oops. And then just save the date, guys, for exciting spiritual installation weekend, where we will install our new senior minister. This is November 8th to 10th, and of course you'll get more details as we go. And remember to just spread the word about our Legal Light Saturdays. Whatever legal questions you might have on and you wish to have some answers, we've got them. And so we have a number of lawyers who are available to share with you, to speak with you about your legal matters. And this is at the Temple of Life, live and direct on Saturdays from 11 to 1. I think next week's Tuesday, our spiritual mind healing service has practitioner Tamu Davidson. So we'll hear a little bit more about that as we go along in the week. Why am I going backwards instead of forwards? And of course, if you feel moved to support our ministry, we ask that you can donate at donate.templeoflightcsl.org. And we are always grateful for your generosity and for you helping to be a beacon of light for the world. And so as you are about to hit that donate button or just allow yourself to give, just put your hand on your heart and we say together the blessing. Lovingly I give, joyfully I receive, without fruitful increase and multiply, bless, prosper, and enrich everyone whom you touch, and replenish all of my financial affairs. Thank you, Father, and so it is. And we do our prayer for our center. The Temple of Light, Center for Spiritual Living, is a sacred field embodying our spiritual community from which the Christ, peace, love, and joy emanate, to touch, to heal, to bless, to prosper, and to liberate anyone who comes into contact with it in any way. The light of the Christ illumines us, our center, and our environment. Our spiritual community is filled with and surrounded by the presence of God and is growing from strength to strength. The power of God expands our consciousness of truth, guiding us ceaselessly along the paths of wisdom, spiritual growth, unfoldment, and attainment. We are blessed, and to God be the honor and glory forever. And so it is. And the prayer for Jamaica. The radiant light of God's love is now flowing through us, from us, everything and everyone it touches. The eternal light of God's love, now completely fills, covers, and surrounds our island, Jamaica. The glowing intensity of the light of God's love now interpenetrates and awakens within the hearts and minds of our countrymen and women the truths of life which set free. The light of God's love is growing and glowing in intensity in the hearts and minds of mankind everywhere. Love, health, harmony, goodwill, peace, uprightness, integrity, joy, prosperity, kindness, and our oneness under God are now established. And so it is. Okay. So we are complete for the evening. Gone a little bit over, thanks to the spirited discussion of our group. So Carol, you close us off, please.
Okay. In this moment, we breathe in the essence of all that has taken place this evening. The lively discussion, the clarification where needed, the wonderful affirmative prayers of health and wholeness, prosperity, of right action, of light and peace, love, joy. This is the truth of our experience now. This is the truth of who we are and how we are. So in this knowing, then, we open ourselves to let that God presence be present in, through, and as us, so that our lives and the lives of everyone who we touch are uplifted, are brought into wholeness, are peace-filled, love-filled, and joy-filled. For this, I truly give thanks as we go our separate ways this evening, knowing that we go as God, as one with each other, one as God. I give thanks for this, and I let this be so now.
So it is. Okay, love and blessings all.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful
So it
service.
is. Thank
Yes.
you.
And love and light, everyone.